Howdy folks, my name's Darren from RC Scale Models, and today we have another kit. This one's a 1/48 scale Avro Anson Mk.1, brand new tooled for Airfix. Just been released. I want to say thank you to Airfix for getting it out to me so quickly. Let's take a look what we get inside this one. So what's inside this kit? We have a nice box art. We have a little bit of info of what the artwork is depicting. It's saying that they also amazingly managed to shoot down 2 109s. It was to do with Dunkirk at that time, 1940s. The kit number for this is A09191, 1/48 scale. Here are some of the marking options. So we have the one from the box art, RF. We have an Australian one, which is like a white or greyish colour. We have a training version, which will be camouflaged in the yellow. Skill 3 level, 3 flying hours, if you're looking at that type of thing. It's still factory sealed. I haven't looked into this kit yet. So let's get a knife and cut straight into this. It's standard Airfix box. I do like their boxes because they're quite sturdy. Looks like they've started to listen, because we are starting to see separate bags on certain stuff. So we've got a bag of 2 sprues, we have wings, fuselage, and we've got a bag here just like detail for the engines and cowlings and stuff like that. Instructions, should be markings and stuff and call outs, so we'll take a closer look at the instructions. So this is the paperwork for the Airfix kit. It's pretty standard stuff. Let's just zoom the camera in a little bit. So we have the languages, the dimensions of the aircraft, I believe, in real life and stuff like that. There's colour callouts. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Markings on the inside. More colour callouts. So typical Airfix doing things. You've got your symbols, everything in red is the next step. So as usual with cockpit detail, we have all that kind of stuff going together. So this what looks like probably some of the foot pedals, cockpit floor, wing spar. We have the seats and cushions that goes in, another seat behind, which is probably to do the radio operator and gunner, that type of thing. A couple of other seats as well, because they do transport passengers and stuff. And another wing spar as well, which is even longer. And then making sure it's a 90-degree square, which is pretty standard. Make sure it's straight as well. And then we have the cage, which you can see on the front box art, which is also the glass will be visible. So all of this is going to want to be detailed and painted very well, because it's quite a lot of glass on this one. I would recommend a mask set probably for this as well. More detailed parts like the flight stick or the flight yoke, is it? The steering mechanism. I call it the flight steering wheel, which I don't think it is. So we have obviously another option. We can have 1 and 2. Again, if you're having 2 versions, it is to do the training. Here is more detailed parts. This looks like a table with a lamp. This is probably to do with the navigator's area. This is the oxygen bottles by the looks of things, and levers and stuff like that, all to do with the cockpit area. This is your dash. More pedals. This is to do with cockpit. This is cockpit. Radio equipment here. This looks like more radio stuff. This is attaching the radios in place. We have one of the machine guns that sits on the side, which if you look on the aircraft, they have machine guns shooting out the side of the aircraft. This is the rest of the framing and the like scaffolding type cage type assembly all being built up. This is the other side of the fuselage half, which also is internal detail. There's a couple of holes to drill out, which is called out for 1mm. Again, it's for A version only, which do the markings. So beware, there's certain things you have to be visual and be aware of, because of slight differences on an English version to an Australian version or whatever. So that insert can go in. We have a couple of detail parts inside. This is sandwiching it, the two holes together. It says here, so it says up here, just be aware of the fuselage being attached properly, which shows here, make sure the fuselage insert is flush, it's not leaving a gap, and same as what comes with the wing spar, making sure there is no gap, it should be right up against it. And same on the inside, there should be no gap on top. Another machine gun going in. This looks like part of the turret system, and bulkheads and stuff going inside. Again, this is all going to have to be painted as you work your way along, which is probably the interior green, I imagine. We have a couple of the lights. I see these on aircraft, but I'm really not sure what these are for. I think it's to do with landing lights, or not sure. But you've got this typical green, orange and yellow, or green, orange and red. The other side of the insert going in with more detail parts, and then the other side of the fuselage being sandwiched together, which completes the whole entire fuselage section. And again, making sure the same segments that you add on the other side, everything is alignment. Once that's done, the roof can go in of the fuselage half, and then the floor of the fuselage half, making sure it snaps in from the back and goes down at the front. And we have flaps, ailerons, tailplanes, that kind of thing at the back. Again, more of the wings at the back, tailplanes. Do not glue the flaps, so you can make them posable, but it's your discretion. And now here, what looks like part of the landing gear, engine nacelle type of section. So we're working our way along. Nicely detailed and complex as it works our way along. This detail section is what you see on your plastic part. You've got to make sure it's facing the right way up. It's probably not going to fit if you have it the other way. Again, making sure everything's 90 degrees square. Two of those you have to make off, obviously left and right. And this is attaching it to the wing, upper wing section going in. Again, a couple of holes for different detail parts, a 1mm hole. This is the left and right wings, both the same. And now we have nacelles, and left and right that is. We have more flaps again. Engine detail, which doesn't look too bad for this size of kit. So it's two halves of the cylinders, the radiator parts at the back, and pipes. Pretty cool. Don't forget the pin. I have done that in the past, forgot to put the pin in, and obviously couldn't attach my pellets properly. A couple of more detail parts as you work your way along. This is part of the engine cowling. We have these lumps and bumps over the cowling. I imagine if you want to display the engine, each of these cowlings can be removed if you want the engine visible. Again, left and right sides, so there's two of those to complete. Attaching your engine nacelles and lights going in. We have the rudder going in, and then we have all the glass work, which is hopefully long pieces, which it looks like it is. Like I mentioned before, you're probably going to want a mask set for this, just to make it a little bit easier. Here we have a couple of differences. Open and closed doors option, internals, main canopy going in, front nose going in, which has the light in the front. And then we've got two-piece wheels and the landing gear segments. This looks like for the wheels down. I don't think you can have the wheels up on this aircraft, but that looks pretty standard. Then we have the small wheel at the back, the tail dragger section, a couple of pitot tubes as you work your way along in aerials. Yeah, so the landing gear is going to be fixed down. Propellers going in, or props. And then we have the turret assembly as you work your way around, which is pretty standard. I'm not sure where the turret comes from, if it's from any other aircraft. I don't know. If it's specific to this aircraft, I'm not sure, but it's pretty standard. You have the frame in, and we have the glass ball type turret, and then that's it for the complete build. And then it's just markings. And you have this one here. This is the one from the box art, I believe, which is the RF version. It's green over earth colour, so it's the light earth or dark earth over green, and then they're calling out for a silver bottom. Actually, I thought it would have been different or grey, but they're calling out for silver bottom. I know there is one of these aircraft at Duxford, I think, in the museum. So again, just check references. If you do want to do different markings, just make sure you get your stuff right. Pretty cool though. Then we have an Australian version, which is pretty cool. So we have different type of greens and slightly different brown. They're calling out for a dark green, and they're calling out for earth, dark earth colour, but I don't think that's the same as the Royal Air Force version, I'm not sure. Number 98, and yeah, it's different, so it is a different earthy colour. And then obviously they're calling out for silver bottom, but then the side of the aircraft is white, so that's a bit different. I actually like this scheme, actually, it's pretty cool. I may have to get another one of these and do an Australian version. May have to. And there's the markings. And the last scheme is the training version, which is again, it's the dark earth over the green, and then we have the bright yellow bottom. So yeah, pretty cool schemes. And then a couple of stencil datas and wire placements. Actually, this is not stencil data, this is just wire. So yeah, pretty cool. There isn't a ton of wires. Easy line will probably work for that perfectly fine. And then we have the giant marking sheet, which is pretty cool. We have the RF roundels. Again, it is cardograph decals. I forgot to mention that on the box because it does say it. It shows you there. So nicely printed, very sharp, crisp and clean. Again, there is a couple of aftermarket stuff coming out for this. Hopefully they can get an instrument panel out for it, which I probably would upgrade. I'm definitely going to want to get a mast set for it, but that's probably all it needs. In my opinion, I think it would be pretty damn good. Now as for the kit itself, we'll take a close look at that. So the first sprue, I'm just going to go from the top and work my way down. In no particular order. In this bag there are two sprues the same, which is all the engine detail. So let's zoom in a little bit. So we have really good detail here. So this is the engine detail, this is the engines, we have the piping, this is part of the cowling. These lumps and bumps go over these cowling parts, they're part of the landing gear. We have the propeller or prop section, these are parts of the lower cowling section, parts of your landing gear here and here. This is part of the flight stick type section, pitot tubes on here, so yeah. Very nicely done. It's quite softer plastic, it feels. It's quite flexible, this sprue. This is the one you're probably mainly interested in, the wings and the body. So here is the lower wing section. So upper wing section, lower wing sections, the floor, a couple of sides of the engine nacelles, a couple of flaps is nicely done. This is sprue B, by the way. This is part of the cowling. Yeah, your flaps. Wing detail has that fabric texture. You can see it's all lumpy, which also on the inside has no detail, but they've got a nice texture on the outside, a nice effect. Lower wing section. Here is the floor, and obviously the other side of the wings, which are practically the same. And the other sprue in the same bag is fuselage halves. So we have fuselage halves, two types of roof actually, I didn't realise that. Australian one or one of the other schemes probably doesn't have a turret. I'd have to go back and look. And then we have all the framing for the like scaffolding cage type cockpit area. This is the main internal parts of the floorings and stuff. This is the tail section. So we have this fine detail. All these little pins are extra ejector pins, so they don't make nasty ejector pins on your parts. Here is the floor on the inside, very nicely done. There is a couple of detail parts there. It is quite a long, skinny aircraft actually. And then we have that rib texture on the side. I think a lot of it is fabric and quite soft skinned. The roof, one with turret and one without. The other side of the fuselage again, just repeated, nicely done. And then there's a giant wing spar, and the tail section has that look to it again. So that's nicely done. And we have this one here, which is more internal parts. So we have sprue C. So this is a lot of internal parts, more framing, seats, instrument panels, detail parts, a couple of machine guns. Not sure what type of machine guns they would probably use for these. Aerials, detail parts, a small wing spar which attached to the big one. Internal detail parts, and whatever as you work your way along. So couple of engine cowlings, internal detail parts, some radio equipment which is nicely raised, so black dry brush, this detail up, that kind of thing. One of the seats, obviously there is a couple of side parts to go to it. There is another seat there facing the other way. There's no pilot figures with this one. Normally you get pilot figures with Airfix, but they haven't done it with this kit. So we have the wheels, rest of the cage framing, rest of the piping and plumbing for the engines. This is part of the turret section, more plumbing. A couple of more cowlings, flaps and tail planes up here. So again, it's the same parts as before. These little cutouts is where those little lumps and bumps go. Exhaust pipes. It is slightly got a hole to it, so you might want to drill it out a little bit more. The wheels don't look too bad. There is no tread pattern. So normally I'll replace my wheels with resin because they have a lot of tread pattern. But being these are quite smooth wheels with no pattern on them, just gluing them in half and then cleaning the tread up. Cleaning the wheel up. Shouldn't be no problem. I probably won't need to replace them. This is the rest of piping for your engines, and then we have the tail planes and rudders and flaps. Again, it has all that rib texture and fabric look. I think it's nicely done. as I say, I don't think there is a 148 Anson out there by anyone else. If there is, feel free to let me know, but I think this is the only one. And the last sprue is all the clear parts, which is in here as well. So this is the last sprue, which is all the clear. We have the side windows with the open and closed option of the little windows at the back. Two type of canopies, which I didn't realise again. Obviously it shows you instructions, but I wasn't really paying attention to the two differences. A couple of lights and more stuff on the side. This is your ball turret. And the clear parts look pretty good. I've got a couple of scuff marks there. I think that's just because it's been in the bag and a little bit of dust. Is that scuffing or is that just dust? That's just dust, I think. Is that a scratch? No, that's just scuffing as well. So they look pretty cool. I do like this large section here, which is smoke out, which should be part of the fuselage as well, so attaching it shouldn't be a problem. This is slightly different though, this has more clear. And if you look down the sides, the canopy, front canopy is slightly different. And obviously the ball turret, the back, again the front nose as well. So being there's a lot of glass, I highly recommend getting a mask set for this. It'll probably make your life a lot easier. There you are, my friends, another kit from Airfix, 148 scale Avro Anson Mk.1. It's a really good kit, beautiful detail as always. Airfix are starting to do some good subjects. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.